I don't think that they realized that the ticket that they bought. All right. And the ticket that they bought is full clown show. And Donald Trump, per Mark Caputo's reporting, Donald Trump expects Matt Gaetz to be his attorney general and expects Pete Hegseth to be his secretary of defense. And he's going to make those guys call his bluff. And I don't think that they're going to do it. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. I had a Big Think podcast planned for today with David Brooks about the meritocracy, and we're still going to do some of that in segment 2. But, the news intervened and we were reminded that there is no big thinking in Donald Trump's kakistocracy, only raw power and absurdity. And so I turned to the man that would be helpful on that topic. He's the co-founder of the Lincoln Project, host of the podcast, The Enemies List, and also writes at Rick Wilson's Substack. It's Rick Wilson. The Enemies List. The Attorney General is going to have one, it seems like.
Yeah, look, I mean, here's the real talk. And I think a lot of people need to reflect on this because most Americans came to be aware of Matt Gaetz when he entered Congress. But, folks like me, I've known Matt Gaetz since his dad was the state Senate president in Florida many, many years ago in my misspent youth. And Matt's a degenerate. Matt's a bad guy. And a lot of people think, oh, he's that crazy smartass on Fox. He's just one of those crazy Republicans now. Matt's a bad guy. He's a dark figure. Matt could not pass a security clearance to run a Waffle House, which is why Trump is about to make him the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America, most likely in a recess appointment because he cannot be appointed appropriately. Even in the compliant Senate that Trump will have, he can't get this guy through. So it's, as Tim, you and I and many, many other people have been banging the drum for years saying it's going to be much worse than you think. It's much worse than we thought.
Yeah. I want to get into kind of the particulars about Matt Gaetz as dark figure in a second and his traits, because I think that some people misunderestimate him, to borrow a word. But just like at the biggest picture. So since we were last together, Gaetz is nominated for Attorney General. Trump puts that out in a press release. There was a report from Axios that this idea was hatched on the Trump plane, maybe as recently as yesterday morning, because the lawyers, the credible lawyers, who also are going to be problems in their own right, we're talking a little bit too high-minded legal theory for Trump, and Trump wanted a little bit more, real talk about how they're going to go after his foes. In addition, he nominated for the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, somebody that many people think might be Russian. Like, you might as well just put Medvedev at the DNI. But
did Vladimir Putin just not want to take the commute every week to DC?
So both of these happened yesterday, and before we get into the particulars, I want to grab that comment you made about how they're not going to be confirmed, because I'm not so sure about that. I just don't know that our old friends in the establishment, the pre-MAGA Republican establishment, have come to terms with their new reality. And I hate to pick on Lisa Murkowski because she's probably the best of a bad bunch, but I want to play a quick clip from her.
I just said I don't think it's a serious nomination for the Attorney General. We need to have a serious Attorney General, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to consider somebody that is serious. This one was not on my bingo card.
Not on her bingo card.
Yeah, really?
If you missed that, audio's a little low. There's a hallway walk and talk. She says she's not a serious nomination. She looks forward to considering someone serious. This was not on her bingo card. You don't live in a serious time. You're not in a serious party. You're not in a serious Senate. This is what you're going to get, Lisa. All of these guys on the Hill, even Max Miller, who's a MAGA guy, is like, this guy can't get confirmed. Are we? You just even said that, Rick. Are we sure he can't get confirmed? Are you sure that they're not just going to confirm him?
Look, Matt Gaetz, from the lowest up, he's a guy with DUIs. He's a guy where they found a dead guy in his dorm room, and it was never really explained completely. He's a guy who is the subject of a current ethics investigation in the House over teenage sex trafficking. He's a guy who, because his friends went to jail for 11 years for him in Florida, just barely got out of being in a case where he paid his buddy, his running buddy, Venmo for teenage hookers that they took out of the country. This is a guy who is, when he lived in Tallahassee in the state house, he was part of what they called the Game. I think the Game was a little after your time, but it was a group of male Republican legislators who kept score every year about who they screwed. And it was, you get a point for a lobbyist because that's easy. You get 2 points for a staffer, 3 for an intern, 4 for the wife of a fellow member of the legislature, all this kind of stuff, right? Matt's a bad guy. And even Matt will have trouble getting through the Senate. Now, will the people like Mike Walls or John Ratliff or even Kristi Noem have trouble? No, they'll be confirmed at a run. They'll be confirmed.
What about the weekend Fox and Friends host that's going to be in charge of the largest bureaucracy in the world?
Having worked for a Secretary of Defense for some time, I can tell you that is a job for a serious person. I think there are going to be people who push back on that one. I don't think it'll be in the ugly way. I think it'll be in the way that puts the scope of the job in front of him and sets him up for failure in the hearings. Pete Hegseth is a lightweight. He's a perfectly affable, friendly guy. And it's interesting to me that the MAGA response is, well, he served 2 tours, one in Afghanistan, one in Iraq. Okay. There is nothing wrong with that. I salute him. I honor him for that. But you're running a $900 billion a year enterprise in which the lives of 2.5 million active Guard and Reserve troops are your purview, in which the lives of 700,000 civilian employees are your purview, in which you have to be a diplomat, an intelligence officer, the manager of one of the largest corporate enterprises in the world. And Pete Hegseth has never managed anything bigger than an Army platoon. And God bless him for it. But this is a complex, multivariate problem. And he, I think, comes across, to my mind, something as a sop to the fact that we're not seeing the Rick Grinnells and the Kash Patels getting A-tier jobs. And so they're going to say, okay, well, he'll be our guy who goes in and fights the woke military. I still think he has trouble getting confirmed.
You do? Yeah. So this is where I just, I'm with you on like 97% of the words. Every once in a while, we're not aligned, Rick. We're aligned often.
Yeah.
I just think that these guys are going to fold. I think that a big wake-up call happened the last 48 hours for the John Cornyn's of the world, for John Thune even, who's now going to be the Senate Majority Leader, for, Mike Simpson from Idaho, who was caught in the hallway yesterday being like, holy shit, what is this? A lot of them, I think, thought that Trump was going to make it easy on them, that he was going to put in, somebody that they know, like a Mike Lee at the DOJ, and that then they'd put a Gaetz type or a Kash Patel or a Rick Grinnell in a non-confirmable position, and they'd put them in there, and that person would be able to create trouble, and they'd be kind of clownish, and every once in a while something would flare up. I don't think that they realized the ticket that they bought. All right. And the ticket that they bought is full clown show. And Donald Trump, per Mark Caputo's reporting, Donald Trump expects Matt Gaetz to be his attorney general and expects Pete Hegseth to be his secretary of defense. And he's going to make those guys call his bluff. And I don't think that they're going to do it.
I mean, part of the problem is Matt could not pass the security screening for a GS9 clerk.
Neither could Donald Trump, though.
DOJ. Well, neither could Trump. But I think in Matt's case, some of the stuff is so egregious. I mean, Hegseth is just a lightweight. There's nothing that I'm aware of in Hegseth's background that's disqualifying. Matt has things in his background that are disqualifying for the senior law enforcement officer of the country. But in Trump's case, he doesn't care if he recess appoints Matt, because if he figures Matt could go there for the 210 days, I guess it is, he can be a recess appointment and cause maximal chaos and launch investigations and launch special prosecutors and go through all this array of punish Trump's enemies action that would make Trump happy. And now the problem is Gaetz is not stupid. We should all recognize that also.
Okay, I want to go.
Matt is not a dumb guy. Matt's a very bright guy.
Yes.
sociopathic, I would argue, but a bright guy. And I think that's one of the problems that Matt would probably rather fight a confirmation battle because it makes him more famous, which is one of his big drivers, big motivators. And he would rather fight that confirmation battle and then lose it and have Trump recess appoint him so he can be even more unhinged. He understands Trump's psychology very well. He's going to please Trump and cause chaos, cause trouble, cause pain, because Trump does have, an intent to have revenge on people who have caused him harm, allegedly, in his brain.
Yeah. So two thoughts on that. I want to get to Matt's smarts in a sec, but on the recess appointment. So there is some limited time on the recess appointment, but he can buy time. You can have an acting secretary for a little while and then a recess appointment.
I think it's 210 or 215 days, something like that.
Yeah. So you can kick the can though. You have an acting appointment, a recess, and then over the course of that time, a bunch of other crazy shit pops up, the flooding the zone with shit. And eventually, and if these guys find their spine, which I do not expect in January, are they going to have it in March? Are they going to have it in June when they want to get their tax bill through? Like, are they going to want to keep having this fight? I just don't think so. I think that they're all going to fold, and it's going to be crazier than they think. And they did not let their imaginations run wild. Like they thought that they were getting 2017 Trump, and what Trump has in store for them is beyond what any of them had even conceived. I think, and I think that the Gaetz and Hegseth appointments, and Tulsi for that matter, are a wake up call to that. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Well, what do you think about the possibility he uses Article 3 and just recesses
the entire cabinet?
The entire cabinet.
So Ed Whelan tweeted about this yesterday, EPBC.
EPBC,
and he's, not as TDS inflicted at us, but as a conservative, anti-Trump conservative, serious legal guy. And he said he's worried about this. And he, at the end of a thread where he explained this, I'll put the thread in the show notes for people who want to read the particulars of how this would work, and the rumor that he's hearing. He's like, Mike Johnson needs to say no because to recess. Exactly. My reply to him was like, Mike Johnson's not saying no to anything. Mike Johnson's not saying no to anything. Okay. No. So it's possible they could reset. Chuck Todd tweeted yesterday, the cabinet hearings are going to be good TV. Maybe they're not going to have. I don't think they have a plan. I think that they have optionality, and I think they want to. And Donald Trump is thinks he's going to get what he wants, and he's going to see what happens. And that's how he lives, man. He lives off the land. And if these guys try to stand up to him, then he was going to bully them. And if they fold, which I expect, then we'll have normal hearings. Yeah.
Hey, one other thing that I made a point to one of our old Republican friends yesterday, who was like, "Oh no, this is just he's getting his yips out. He's just getting Susie's going to take care of this." I'm like, "Get the hell out of here, Susie! Come on, she's the Reince Priebus of John Kelly's. She is now completely done."
Susie and Reince were both my boss, so they've both been my boss, and I'm telling you, they're the same. Reince is like 2 ticks more of a pathetic pleaser.
Right.
So like Reince never said no one time, I don't think. Maybe he did in his mind. Maybe he said no to a proxy to Jared and made Jared go say no, or to Bannon. But I don't think Reince ever looked at Trump in the eyes and said no. Susie will do that. But she's just picking her battles, man. I mean, she's not like she didn't say no to the Gaetz thing. It went out. It wasn't a bleat. Like it was an official press release. Like she's on
that's
board
the thing
with
is
all this.
There were people that when the election was over, it was like, "Oh, come on, that was all just for the show." I'm like, have you been dead for 10 years?
Have you been dead?
Have you been in a coma for 10 years? Because it's not the show. The show is the thing.
Yeah. It's astonishing to me how many people, I was like looking at Twitter yesterday and it's like Hill reporters, like this is going to be a tough confirmation. Okay. We'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. I've been wrong before. We'll see how that goes in January. All right. Just on Gaetz and Tulsi and their personalities in particular.
Yeah.
I'm with you. There, Ken White, Popat, good guy. He had a newsletter this morning about how and I think he made one good point and one point I'll disagree with about how Gaetz is less dangerous. He said because Gaetz is not that smart and Gaetz doesn't know his way around DOJ. And I agree with him on the second. Right, like you could have picked somebody who is like a Jeff Clark, who's been in the building, who knows, and so Gaetz will need that, but Gaetz is not Louis Gohmert or MTG at all. This is a smart, savvy person.
we worked for when his dad was Senate president. I've known Matt since he was like the freshest new member of the state house, and he got elected when he was like 21 or some bullshit, right? Matt is not dumb. Matt is capricious. Matt is, again, I would argue sociopathic. I would certainly argue that Matt is driven by vanity and ego at a level that even for politics is extraordinary. But he's not stupid. He is not a dumb guy. Look, is he a great lawyer of any kind? No. But Matt has never had to have that. He is incredibly wealthy. He is incredibly manipulative. And I think one thing that's gotten lost in the shuffle, let's not forget, Matt Gaetz was a guy just to troll the libs who invited Charles Johnson, a white supremacist, to a State of the Union address. I mean, this is a guy who he has some darkness in him that I think hearings would be great to bring out. But look, I think there's a real possibility Trump just wipes the slate, recesses it all, and says, "I can't wait. We have to make America great again now. So I'm gonna do this because all my cabinet members I need them on day one."
Yeah, bring it, John Thune. We'll see. I know which.
By the way, for folks who as much as it was amusing to watch Mitch McConnell, put a little ding on Donald Trump on the way out the door. Do not expect John Thune, y'all, to be a profile in courage. He is not that guy. He is a go along to get along guy.
All right, on the Tulsi side of it, I don't know. We don't know. Both of us know Matt, and so I think can attest to his strengths and weaknesses with some credibility. I don't know. I've never met Tulsi. I think it's possible though that in some ways Tulsi worries me more than Matt because I think Matt will act in predictably concerning ways across various verticals, which we'll be discussing for years if he gets this job. Tulsi is a little bit more of a wild card. It could be a General Flynn. I can't tell if she is just a savvy and sociopathic or if she's got a screw loose like Mike Flynn. And I think that choice is pretty alarming for me. I don't know where you.
I am very alarmed by Tulsi and folks that both active and retired folks from the intelligence and defense community yesterday that I was in communication with were freaked out about her. As one guy said, John Ratcliffe, he's not very worldly. He is just a Trump guy. He's not that smart. He's just
Bannon told me 6 months ago Ratcliffe was going to get the job because they like to golf together. Like that's the kind of guy it is. Like
right. He's a backslapper.
He's a golf cart.
He's a beer after 18 holes guy. Exactly. Mike Walls was a non-Trump guy, became a Trump guy, former Green Beret. Yeah, he doesn't worry me. In national security advisor, he's not qualified for it, but it doesn't terrify me. Tulsi, remember, folks. When the Russians were backing Assad when he was using nerve agents on his own people, Tulsi was the one member of Congress who was pro-Syria. She has routinely and repeatedly said, if we oppose Putin on anything, it's nuclear war. She has opposed trade sanctions and economic sanctions against Russia after the Ukraine invasion. Whatever's broken in Tulsi's brain, she's like the RFK Jr. of foreign policy. He's like he has these beliefs that are at wild variance with what would be great for the country or what would be normal for any other elected or appointed position. But I think there's something really dark about her. There are a lot of people in the intelligence world who are deeply concerned about her. And you put somebody like that, again, with no qualifications to speak of, into that position. She was an Army major with an intel background, but not at the level. It's like, I fly small planes. I can't fly 747. She's that's the kind of jump you're going to see there. But her at the top of the intelligence food chain with access to every single program out there, that should scare the hell out of people.
All right, so let's leave it at this. A lot of potential things to be worried about. What is it? What's at the top of your list right now?
My biggest worry right now is that you've got a critical mass of folks inside Trump's universe who are going to cut off Ukraine immediately and hand Putin a major victory in Europe. I know that seems like a weird thing because of all the threats and our personal safety and all that stuff. I think that can happen almost on the first day. It's going to take them a while to spin up the machine to prosecute and persecute all of us. But on the first day, they can hand Putin Ukraine if they want.
Are you really worried about that? The personal safety stuff on domestic side?
Yeah, I get enough death threats that aren't. I mean, look, 99% of them are just crazy people, or just shit talkers. But I've dealt with the FBI and a bunch of these guys just recently, who here's your address, here's your house, here's your card, here's your license plate number. I'm coming to kill you. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think that the people that were involved in the impeachments and the legal efforts that indicted Trump and maybe now
I think
Gaetz,
those folks are in huge trouble.
I don't know. Beyond that, I think that's the one area where it's maybe my imagination that is yet to be fully formed. But we will see, brother. Rick, thank you for coming in at the last second.
I just,
when Matt Gaetz is in the news, I needed a Florida man who can shoot people straight about the kind of product that the soil in your great state is creating for our country.
Something's always trying to kill you in the great state of Florida.